This is the Energy Makers Show, featuring the innovators, financiers, and policymakers focused on the global energy demand. Brought to you by NRG, moving clean energy forward. And here's your host, Russ Capper.
Hi, I'm Russ Capper, and welcome to episode number 102 of the Energy Makers Show. Today, first up, we look at the explosive growth in manufacturing brought on by the transformation in the oil and gas world as I sit down with Jeff Applegate, the co-founder and chairman of the Greater Houston Manufacturers Association, and also the president of Blackwell Plastics. Then after that, I sit down with Dr. Arthur Laffer. This is the inventor of the Laffer curve, the supply-side economics guy, and we talk about the energy space. All of that right after this.
At BKD, we understand the constantly shifting nature of the energy industry. As a national CPA and advisory firm, we serve energy clients from the beginning to the end of the cycle. Our experienced energy advisors serve approximately 300 energy companies in exploration, midstream, downstream, oilfield services, and power production. Plus, we're the largest North American member of the Praxity Global Alliance, which means we can help you wherever you operate. Contact a BKD advisor or visit us online to learn more.
This is the Energy Makers Show, brought to you by NRG, moving clean energy forward. And now, back to the Energy Makers Show with your host, Russ Capper.
Welcome back to the Energy Makers Show. Our topic today is the incredible increase in manufacturing and the associated jobs brought on by the transformation of the oil and gas industry. And I'm very pleased to have with me Jeff Applegate, co-founder and chairman of the Greater Houston Manufacturers Association, also president of Blackwell Plastic, and also a former president of the Society of Plastic Engineers. Jeff, welcome to the Energy Maker Show.
Thank you, Russ. Good to be here.
You bet. Well, let's start with what you do on your day job, and
Right.
that's Blackwell Plastics. Tell us about that.
Blackwell Plastics, we're the oldest custom injection molder and extruder in this part of the country. We were founded in 1939. And what we do, we take the pellets that you get from Exxon or Chevron Phillips, the plastic pellets, and we take those and we squirt them into molds, and we make all kinds of industrial parts, most of which you wouldn't go to Walmart and buy, but our customers are going to be making cases for gauges, or they might be making aircraft parts, or they might be making medical device parts, and lots of parts for the energy industry.
Okay, 1939, you've got a good run going there. In fact, that makes me wonder, there's this explosion of new manufacturers all over the place brought on by the availability of lower cost feedstock. But you apparently made it through the process even when it wasn't lower cost. How'd you do that?
Well, I think it's diversity. I mean,
Okay.
diversity, the boom and bust nature of the energy economy certainly has affected us. But we've also got the world's largest medical center, and there's a lot of innovation coming out of that sector. We also work in the electronics sector, the aerospace sector, so it's nice to be in Houston and in Texas because there's lots of industries to choose from.
Okay, but the feedstock going up and down had an impact, I would guess.
Certainly. The cost of a feedstock does affect us and our competitiveness, and so that's caused us to be more focused on the custom work and less on the low-dollar commodity work.
Okay, I understand. All right, now, introduced you as the co-founder and chairman of the Greater Houston Manufacturers Association. It's a relatively new association, correct?
That's correct, Russ. It's been a little over a year, almost 2 years, that we founded it. It grew out of a medical device manufacturers, which was a group of companies that was about 40, 50 companies that were trying to capitalize on the $2 billion of research and development that's happening in our medical center. People were taking the technology and they were harvesting it outside of Houston, and we said, why? And they said, well, we couldn't get it done in Houston. Well, it was all here. We just needed to connect the dots for them. So we formed an association to say, when you've got this technology, we're here to help you get it done. And we started it. It was successful. And we've helped commercialize a number of medical devices as a group. And as a group, we kind of grew strong, but none of us were just in medical devices. So we decided that we would try to grow that group and have a broader manufacturing association for Houston. giving Houston not just another association to be involved with, but one that kind of coordinates a lot of the fragmented industries. And so there's one group that can support, if the plastics engineering group is doing something, we'll support them. If the Society of Manufacturing Engineers is putting on a trade show, we're going to promote that trade show. So anything that have to do with manufacturing in Houston, we want to promote that and facilitate that.
Well, speaking of manufacturing in Houston, we kind of have a broad audience all over the country, all over the globe. But what surprised me in my research is that Houston might be have the place that has the most manufacturing jobs of any city in the United States. Is that right?
That's right. Forbes, I think it was 2010 or 11, came out with an article, and it's continued to hold that Houston had was ranked number one in manufacturing and industrial jobs. We have over 240,000 jobs that are directly related to manufacturing.
But it sounds like they're probably growing. That number's going to continue to grow.
It will, I think, and they're going to change as they do. Right now, there's a lot of the engineering work, so the higher-end jobs that are trying to design the plants and do the engineering work of the plants. But soon there to follow are going to be a lot of what they call the middle skill jobs. And so, 10, 15 years ago, these skilled jobs started going away. These are the trade skills. These are the welders, the pipe fitters.
Oh, yeah.
These are the machinists. These are the fabricators. And that whole area really needs to be, that pipeline of workers really needs to be energized. So we're working with a number of institutions to try to bring those jobs back. The jobs are going to be there, but we're going to have a shortage of workers.
Wow, sounds like potentially a serious shortage.
We are, and I think there's a lot of hard work. The Greater Houston Partnership is leading some efforts. I know that Lone Star College, Houston Community College, San Jacinto College, Lee College, as well as HISD are working on trying to put programs together to bring the trades back.
Very interesting. Houston always seems to be on the other end of the spectrum. The country's been crying for jobs for a long time, and we're crying for workers here, right?
Exactly. If you've got good folks out there with the skills, there's plenty of work for them.
Okay, well, describe some of that's taking place along the Gulf Coast right now.
Right now, on the Gulf Coast, it's really incredible what we're seeing on the Gulf Coast is when you've got the upstream, and they've, over the last 10 or 12 years, whatever, it's really come on as far as the ability to go and harvest the energy out of the ground.
Right.
So with the directional drilling, with the hydraulic fracturing, the feedstocks that they're being able to deliver, we've got this low-cost feedstock. Well, we've got to be able to get it to the refineries and get it to the market. So what happened in 1999, we thought it may be the last cracker that we ever built on the Gulf Coast because
and the cracker is something that takes the actual oil and gas and converts it into chemicals that can be used for plastics and other manufacturing, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And the type of product that we get on the Gulf Coast, it's a low cost, it's easy to transfer into, say, polyethylene or polypropylene. So, which are the commodity plastic resins that we both consume and we export all over the world. So what happened, we had a paradigm shift. We had this we thought that the energy costs were going to be high. We thought that we were not going to be building any more crackers. We thought that the jobs were going to be going over to the Middle East and to Europe and Asia. And then all of a sudden the world changed.
Right.
And as a result of the world change, we got this low-cost feedstock, but we can't take advantage of this advantageous situation if we can't crack it and get it into the refineries and get it out to distribution. We had the refineries and distribution, and those also need to be upgraded. But what that spurred was, right now we have $28.9 billion, according to the Greater Houston Partnership, of projects that are going on right there around the Port of Houston to help us get this product to market. There are over 40 office projects with 11 million square feet currently under production and 50 more on the drawing board. So the engineering firms that are coming, the fabricators, the welders, the pipe fitters, it's the demand that's coming in order to get the product to market is incredible, and it's going to continue to be that way for a number of years.
So 1999, they were building one, and everybody in your space said, well, this probably is going to be the last one. And,
right.
Wow. Can you kind of remember when there was a tipping point and everybody that does what you do said, wait a minute, it's going to be here?
Well, I think I remember when really still in the early 2000s, as we run a conference. It's the Society of Plastic Engineers. We have a a conference. It's the International Polyolefins Conference, and we were the international hub of the plastics polyolefin business for many, many decades. And then all of a sudden we saw that Europe and Asia and the Middle East was taking it from us because we weren't going to be the hub of manufacturing. Wow. And the world changed, and all of a sudden where our conference, we saw our attendees going down, we saw the international conferences growing. Well, probably our conferences in, say, 2009, 2010, we really saw a resurgence. And then as these projects came on, the world shifted, or the tide shifted to come back to Houston. So last year was our best conference we've had in a number of years, and it really just shows the interest, the jobs, the energy that's going on in building around the Gulf Coast.
Sounds exciting for
yeah,
sure.
Is.
Now, but you do know that this space is known, supply and demand going up and down. It's bound to go down again at some point in time.
Well, we've got a prolific amount of energy, and so from that standpoint, our supply of energy is going to go on for some time, I think. And the other parts of the world have this same shale gas. I mean, it's not unique just to the United States. So that shale gas, it's eventually going to be explored. It's going to be developed, but it's going to take them years. We have all the technology here in the United States. We have all of the coordinated support, and so for us to be able to go and get the resources out of the ground, we were able to do that relatively fast. Our capital markets, the service companies, we could get that out of the ground and get it to market relatively fast. You start trying to do that in other parts of the world that are unsafe, that the resources are controlled by the government, there's going to be a lot. So we should enjoy this competitive advantage for a number of years to come.
So it feels like it's going to last a while for sure.
We certainly hope so.
All right. Well, Jeff, I really appreciate you sharing your story with us.
Certainly, Russ.
You bet. And that wraps up my discussion with Jeff Applegate, co-founder and chairman of the Greater Houston Manufacturers Association and president of Blackwell Plastics. We'll be back with more right after this.
This is the Energy Makers Show, brought to you by NRG, moving clean energy forward. And now, back to the Energy Makers Show with your host, Russ Capper.
Welcome back to the Energy Makers Show. My guest now is Dr. Arthur Laffer, one of the most respected economists since the 1970s, a member of President Reagan's Economic Policy Advisory Board, and our guest today.
Well, thank you.
Dr. Laffer.
It's a pleasure.
Great to have you here.
Nice to be here.
Dr. Laffer, share your perspective on the tremendous transformation in the United States oil and gas space.
Well, I'm not an energy economist, but I obviously understand it's like any other product.
Right.
We've had a scarcity of energy and the price of oil went up pretty high.
Right.
And of course that triggers suppliers. I mean, high prices, people try to supply the product so they can make money, and lo and behold, they've found a lot. They've got the fracking going on. They've got all of this stuff. We've got natural gas galore. And it all feeds into our industrial complex here. It's beautiful. And the one thing that is really, I follow very closely, is the energy imports into the United States.
Oh, yeah.
And if you look at the number of barrels of oil we import, it went way, way, way up, and then it's flattened out, and now it's coming down.
Right.
It's falling like a stone.
Yeah, well, it's real interesting, too, now, though, that we do this in a global economy, and there were huge plants being built across the shoreline of the United States to import LNG, liquid natural gas, and they're all changing the direction because we're going to be exporting it now.
Isn't it wonderful?
Is phenomenal. What's your position on exporting our oil?
Why not?
And exporting LNG?
No, there is no resource protected.
Yeah.
There are some things we do better than foreigners and some things foreigners do better than we do.
Right.
And if our producers find a better market for our products abroad, sell it abroad.
Right.
If they find a better market here, sell it here.
Right. Okay, so what do you think of the tax treatment in oil and gas exploration these days, and the desire for Obama to tax it more, to go pay for sustainable energy development, solar and wind?
I think all of these ad hoc piecemeal taxes that they throw up here, an energy drilling tax, an oil tax. You remember Jimmy Carter and his windfall profits tax,
right.
And then he had price controls,
right.
And then he had the price of gasoline held below market, so we had the long lines up there and all that. Right. These guys don't know straight up from sick'em.
Right.
And what you need to do is have a low rate, flat tax, then no other taxes. Get the heck out of the business.
Well, let me put it to you this way. What if suddenly there was a groundswell movement and people elected you as the economic czar of the United States, put you in charge and said, wow, we recognize, Dr. Laffer, that it's broken. What would you do to fix it?
There are 5 things I do. And they're the basic 5 things you'd need to do. I mean, they cover the kingdoms of macroeconomics. A low rate flat tax, that's first of all. And you make the same rate from the first dollar to the last dollar. No deductions, exemptions, exclusions, but you have to have a low rate flat tax so you don't even have to report your income. Then you have spending restraint. That's number 2. Number 3, sound money. You need to do contracts and no inflation. Then you want free trade. We do some things better than foreigners, and they do some things better than we do. And we and they would be foolish in the extreme if we didn't sell them those things we make cheaper than they do, and they sell us those things they make cheaper than we do. I mean, Walmart's a perfect example of looking at that. It's just great. And lastly, you need minimal regulations. I mean, if you prohibit anyone from having losses, no one can have profits. Right. And the whole dynamic of progress is some people lose and some people win, and you learn better ways and you evolve and you take your chance, you take your risk and do it.
Well, Dr. Laffer, I really appreciate you sharing this with us today.
Well, thank you. I love being with you. It's really fun.
You bet. And that wraps up my discussion with Dr. Arthur Laffer, and that wraps up this episode of The Energy Makers Show, heard on the radio and seen right here at TheEnergyMakers.com.